This is potent.
Sorry if you tweak now. Maybe I'll make it a little weaker next time. It probably was the.
We'll go to the pumpkin again.
Yeah. Is it too strong? Do I need to lessen the? You all like are unable. If I see you all like this during the sermon, yeah.
Well, we do that anyways.
Yeah, that's true. That's more like. But yeah, I need to figure that out. I always did the same stuff I did for the Saxonburg stuff, and must be a little more strong. All right, so today we begin we're going through a lot of Proverbs today. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, so open up to Proverbs. So as you're turning there, today we are going to do a lightning fast run through the first 8 chapters of Proverbs, where the literary thing is a father making appeal to his son about wisdom. So a young man can either choose the path of the wise, which is characterized by fear of the Lord, or the path of folly, which entails rejection of God's ways. The paternal appeals, that's what we're going to call them in chapters 1 through 8, are in poetic form the themes that will appear throughout all of Proverbs. This is kind of just the start off. So he's saying, listen, son, this is what we're going to be doing. So I'm going to need your help reading because there's a lot of reading here, but I'll start us off. And so the first parental appeal is a warning against those who promise profit by taking advantage of others. So as we're reading these verses, consider the following questions. Though sinful, what are some immediate benefits of the sinner's enticements that make them quite tempting? And then we're going to talk about what are some contemporary versions of this, and how might this path take away the life of its possessors. So let's start. So starting in Proverbs 1:8 to 19. Hear, my son, your father's instruction, and forsake not your mother's teaching, for they are a graceful garland for your head and pendants for your neck. My son, if sinners entice you, do not consent. If they say, come with us, let us lie and wait for blood. Let us ambush the innocent without reason. Like Sheol, let us swallow them alive and whole, like those who go down to the pit. We shall find all precious goods. We shall fill our houses with plunder. Throw in your lot with us. We will have one purse. My son, do not walk in the way with them. Hold back your foot from their paths, for their feet run to evil, and they make haste to shed blood. For in vain is a net spread in the sight of any bird, but these men lay in wait for their own blood. They sit in ambush for their own lives. Such are the ways of everyone who is greedy for unjust gain. It takes away the life of its possessors. Welcome. We didn't think you were back yet.
Lost track of time.
All right. So that was a lot. But what those sinful? What are some immediate benefits that might make the sinner's enticements actually quite tempting? I'm sorry, I'm hearing squeaking and my ADHD is kicking in. I apologize. What are some things that can make the sinner's enticements here actually tempting to join in? Particularly starting in verses 13.
Yeah. Get all the precious goods.
You get all the precious goods. Yeah, I mean, that's how we talk in business. Come on, come with me. Let's defraud people and get precious goods. Fill our houses with plunder. Yeah. What might be another one that you could have there?
I think the next verse it says we'll all have one purse. So
Yeah.
apparently everybody will benefit.
Yeah. You get some friends, too. That's good, because life could be lonely sometimes, and you get like a group of people. You know, if you've ever seen the Ocean's 11 movies, you know, there's a lot of camaraderie there that you might not get elsewhere. So friendship, you also get a lot of money in one purse. Yeah. So what are some contemporary examples of being greedy for unjust gain? So he's speaking poetically, so he's talking about setting whatever. But really what it comes down to is he's warning his son against unjust gain. So it might be an unjust gain that we might be greedy for in everyday life. Like what's something that you might struggle with in the hospital? Like I was trying to think like, you know, like if I was writing a sermon about this, what might be something that somebody, you know, in your line of work would have to deal with, or...
Unjust gain.
let me help you get up from your bed. Stealing from.
Oh, no, no one would do that.
Oh, nobody would. Okay, no.
I don't know. I mean, I don't see it.
Yeah. Trying to think of something that would be unjust gain in the hospital. Well, obviously in other areas, the hospital field.
I mean, I kind of think of like even struggles with documenting correctly, or like the insurance gain behind the healthcare system. That seems like unjust to me.
That could be something. I like that.
About all those phone calls they warned you about, especially the senior citizens, how they take their money. Yeah.
That's this, yeah. That's my grandma, my wife's grandmother used to get calls from me saying I got in an accident and I need money. This is Sean, and grandma would be crying, and she would have to hear my voice over the phone to know it's not me. And then I'd be like, oh, I failed again. No, that was a bad joke. But yeah, she would always get calls from some guy saying he was Sean, and yeah, creepy. It was creepy for her especially. All right, how might this path take away the life? I love the way that's put. Such as the ways of everyone who's greedy for unjust gain. It takes away the life of its possessors. Yeah, so whether it's obvious like the phone call, or schemy like the insurance thing, or even just subtle things of taking a little bit off the top, stealing that extra pencil at work, that sort of. How could that take away the life of the possessor?
I think through sin, because if it says here, we'll all throw down together, what the group is doing becomes the right thing to do, or the acceptable thing to do when actually it's sin.
Yeah, it slowly, there's both, it takes away your life now, and it does do something in eternity too that we'll talk about another day.
Worse and worse.
Yeah.
You get away with a little,
Let's do a little more. Let's do a little more.
Hey, Pastor John, an unrelated question.
Yeah.
As I'm reading this. It says, for in vain is a net spread in the sight of any bird.
Oh.
So that to me sounds like, are they talking about pirates? Because the sight of any bird is lame.
It's funny, yeah. I think what it's talking about is just like it's a snare, it's a trap, and any bird could see it. It's obvious, and
then it cancels out this plot you're talking about, because these men lie in wait for their own blood. They set ambush for their own lives. That sounds like people within the cell of men are waiting to take blood from their own. Like these men lie in wait for their own blood.
Yeah.
Like these people that you think are family, stab you in the back.
I think you could take it that way, yeah. The way I took it was, in the sense of they're actually in doing this, they're just slowly killing themselves. But that also is true when you do the one purse thing. Usually they end up biting the back. So you can run with that.
I just, whenever I saw sight of any bird, like, reminded me of like any pirate movie ever.
Yeah. That's what we should have had a picture of a pirate here. I don't have any pictures on here today. I'm sorry. Yeah, that could work. All right, so next, Proverbs 2. So go ahead, and that's the next page, at least for me. 1 through 22. Here's the second parental appeal. My son, if you receive my words and treasure up my commandments with you, making your ear attentive to wisdom and inclining your ear to... hold on a second before I get there. So as we're reading, consider the following questions. Actually, we'll look at that later. All right. Yes, if you call out for insight and raise your voice for understanding, if you seek it like silver and search for it as a hidden treasure, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. For the Lord gives wisdom, from his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. He stores up sound wisdom for the upright. He is a shield to those who walk in integrity, guarding the paths of justice and watching over the way of the saints. Still got more. Still got more. Then you will understand righteousness and justice and equity and every good path. For wisdom will come from your heart, and knowledge will be pleasant to your soul. Discretion will watch over you, understanding will guard you, delivering you from the way of evil, from men of perverted speech, who forsake the paths of righteousness to walk in the ways of darkness, who rejoice in doing evil and delight in the perverseness of evil. Men whose paths are crooked and who are devious in their ways. So you will be delivered from the forbidden woman, from the adulteress with her smooth words, who forsakes the companion of her youth and forgets the covenant of her God. For her house sinks down to death, and her paths to be the departed. None who go to her come back, nor do they regain the paths of life. So you will walk in the good and keep to the paths of righteousness. For the upright will inhabit the land, and those with integrity will remain in it. But the wicked will be cut off from the land, and the treacherous will be rooted out of it. So zeroing in on verses 6 through 8, what aspects of God's character will be discovered by those who pursue wisdom? So what aspects of God's character will be discovered by those who pursue wisdom in verses 6 through 8?
God's grace and God's forgiveness.
Yeah, definitely.
His protection.
Yeah, let me see where we are here. Justice. And he watches over the way. Protection, shield, yes. And more wisdom. Look, in verse 7, he stores up sound wisdom for the upright. Knowledge and understanding will come from him. In verses 9 through 22, how does wisdom benefit those who find it? So let's look at, this is one of these things. It's if you do this, if you walk in the way of wisdom, here's what's going to happen in your life. So you're delivered by evil. Yeah, you go.
You gain more knowledge as you go on, and then the discretion protects you when you walk safer.
Yeah. Verse 21, for the upright will inhabit the land. Who quoted that? Jesus did. Well, where's Jesus at? Hold on a second, let me just do 5 real quick. I didn't catch it the first time I read through this. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. So he kind of quotes it, he paraphrases it. But yeah, it's, there it's talking about Israel, but in the global sense, it's, the new heavens, new earth. It says you'll be delivered by the forbidden woman. So let's talk a little bit about the forbidden woman. How does Proverbs' vivid description of the forbidden woman in verses 17 through 19 accurately describe giving ourselves into sin? So let me read it again. Think about not just adultery, but how this would really describe any kind of sin you can get into. So you will be delivered from the forbidden woman, from the adulteress with her smooth words, who forsakes the companion of her youth and forgets the covenant of her God. For her house sinks down to death, and her paths to the departed. None who go to her come back, nor do they regain the paths of life.
You could replace her with just about anything.
Yeah.
Like
That's
temptation.
Yeah.
In general.
Yeah.
Why did he pick her though?
Because that's one of the characters. So one of the characters you're going to come out with is the lady of folly or the forbidden woman. So she actually comes back a little later.
Okay.
So he kind of uses this where it's dealing with mainly sexual sin, but it also is dealing with just sin in general. You can kind of replace it with other sins as well. Like, that whole thing of none who go to her come back, nor do they regain the paths of life. And so, it's like when you go to her, you're, whether that be any sinful desire, but especially sexual immorality, you're going into something that it's going to be hard to come back from. Stay away from that.
Did Solomon have a past?
Solomon had a past and a future. Solomon's not, not an innocent guy.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, and the end of his, and this is probably written before that, the end of his walk was pretty much because he, married a foreigner who tempted him with other gods. So he had a lot of wives, and he said, "I want that one too." And he had lots of concubines too. Well, it was gross back then. The average Israelite only had one wife, and the kings had a little too much fun there.
So unlike today, though.
Yeah. Well, at least we don't have concubines.
Your sister was on TV.
How might following the ways of wisdom deliver you from the forbidden woman, or man, or they, or any other type of sin? How might you be delivered from the forbidden woman, whatever form she or that person may take.
The protection of God.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're falling in the ways of the path, you recognize that that's a dangerous place to go, and you shy around it.
It's not just me giving, and with the make of the sexual, it's not just me giving in the sexual desire, it's me forsaking at that point everything that God's given me, and like he says, break covenant, that relationship I have with him. Yeah. I'll be aware that her smooth words lead to death, and not just simply, oh, it's that thing I shouldn't do. It's actually something that is leading me to death.
And that's the problem, you get in a little bit, just like the other one.
Yeah.
And you're drawn in deeper and deeper, and then it becomes too late. You don't recognize it as what it truthfully is.
And I think I asked this, but we kind of already talked about, how might such a picture aid you in temptations? One of the things I found helpful in my own life, and this isn't from me, I got it from somebody else, is to, when you look at sin in that way and how ugly that is, it really makes that sin that you're being tempted with a little less. But it makes you really realize that, oh crap, I'm not just choosing to be or not be angry here, or choosing this. No, I'm choosing something that is calling me and is asking me to forsake something, and that its house sinks down to death, and I'm choosing death here, and that, whatever that sin is. And so it really gets you thinking when you're tempted, or it brings you quicker to repentance if you have given into said temptation. It wakes you up a little bit. All right, parental appeal number 3. Does anybody want to read 3:1 through 12 to give Pastor's voice a break?
3 through what?
1 through 12, thank you.
1 through 12.
Yeah. I always struggle with when to stop. I have to look over 5 different times, so I feel the struggle there.
I will.
Yeah.
My son, do not forget my teaching, but let your heart keep my commandments. For the length of days and years of life and peace they will add to you. Let not steadfast love and faithfulness forsake you. Bind them around your neck, write them on the tablet of your heart, so that you will find favor and good success in the sight of God and man. Trust in the Lord with all of your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. In all the ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths. Do not wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord, and turn away from evil. It will be healing to your flesh and refreshment to your bones. Honor the Lord with your wealth and with the first fruits of all of your produce, and then your barns will be filled with plenty, and your vats will be bursting with wine. My son, do not despise the Lord's discipline or be weary of his reproof, for the Lord reproves him whom he loves, as a father and son in whom he delights.
All right, so in the third parental period, good job, by the way, we're given the benefits of walking in wisdom. So verses 3 through 4 are called to safeguard the love and life that God gives you. So it's God's previous love that we get. Verse 5 through 8 teach the necessity of humility, which is anchored in trusting the Lord. And I love that verse. There was a kid's song we used to sing in another church that it reminds me of. Verse 9 through 10, guide the hearer to read and acknowledge in practical ways that everything comes from God's hand. And verses 11 through 12 are a call to submit to God's discipline. So we already read. So rewards of success, health, prosperity are held forth for obeying the instructions of this passage. Are these rewards always expected or experienced in tangible ways? How should we best understand this? Because I used to struggle with this a little bit, and sometimes it's just taught in ways that are weird. So, like when it talks about let me see. Which verses? 9, thank you. Honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of your produce, then your barns will be filled with plenty, and your vats will be bursting with wine. Or, there's another one I thought about here where it's, follow, write God's law or faithfulness on the tablets of your heart, so you will find favor and good success in the sight of God and man. How should we take those? Has anybody ever had an experience with giving properly to the church and your vats being full of wine, bursting? I know it's true of Hobie, who has lots of wine, but that's he gives extra first fruits. I shouldn't say them, so I'm not aware of what anybody gives.
Well, I think it gives in two ways. I don't think this just means financially giving to the church.
Okay, yeah. I'm not just saying church, by the way.
Yeah, but that's like part of it. I
Yeah.
think it, if you live by the church, then other things will come. So
Yeah.
I think there's a lot more to it than just the money part of it.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
So
Now again, I think you can't. It's not a one-to-one correlation with giving to the temple and giving to the church. That was an actual tax you had to give, and it recovered more than just the pastors or the priest's salaries. It covered a lot of stuff, and so cleaning all the guts off the temple floor, from the sacrificed animals, that wasn't cheap.
Well, with me, it did come financially.
Yeah.
I had 3 surgeries, and so I wasn't working, and I had financial bills that came in because of it, and what happened was astounding to me, that unbeknownst to me, in God's own way, He delivered the money that I could get surgery when I fell and broke my shoulder right on the back of all this going on. And I was able to do something the doctor told me I'd probably never do again.
Hallelujah!
Doing my jumping jacks, he said I could never do that again. He said my shoulder was broken the wrong area for that.
That's really cool.
But
Thank you for your testimony.
jumping jacks.
That was like a Pentecostal testimony again.
Yeah.
Hallelujah!
And I went into therapy doing jumping jacks.
I can barely do them. My shoulder. One of the things, for example, we're going to look at the parable of the rich man and Lazarus today. That's just the next lecture. So that's the story of the rich man and Lazarus. How it's you got the guy who's rich passes Lazarus by in his gate, and you have Lazarus who's just pretty much dejected and sores all over his body, and he dies. But we discover that in eternity, the rich man finds himself in hell, and Lazarus finds himself in heaven. And Lazarus, if you read the rest of the Bible, just knowing context, he wasn't in heaven because he was poor, but he was in heaven because he had faith. And so there's that sense where there may be experiences like yours, and there are. And in my own life, I've never been one, but there are instances though where this is not a one-to-one promise. So if you give it to the Lord, or like because but there's also instances where this is fulfilled in eternity as well. That Lazarus didn't get it. He was covered in sores, but he still hung on in patient endurance in his faith and received his reward in eternity. There are instances where that's going to happen, but there is that promise both now and eternity, sometimes fulfilled now, sometimes in eternity, where your vats will be overflowing with wine or whatever you want to say. I just like the word vats. That makes sense? So both now and in eternity. Yeah, there might be times when your faith is tested, and that could actually be discipline. We'll get to that in a second, but yeah. All right, verses, where are we at?
Well,
here?
don't you think eternity is a different sense of wealth, though?
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely,
Okay.
yeah.
Because money doesn't matter.
But you're using human language, yeah.
Yeah.
I think there'll be vats of wine exploding in
I
heaven.
think there'll be wine. I
Yeah.
just don't think there'll be money.
Yeah. Where are we at here?
Yeah.
This is an important one. Verse 11. I didn't have this in a question. I'm shocked I didn't do this. Verses 11 and 12. My son, do not despise the Lord's discipline or be weary of his reproof. For the Lord reproves him who he loves, and as a father, the son in whom he delights. That one's also quoted in the New Testament as well. When you hear the word Lord's discipline, what do you imagine?
Well, it could be hard times.
Yeah.
Like I had the 3 surgeries
Yeah.
back to back, and it cost me, and I didn't lose faith. I knew God would take care of me. He always has.
Yeah.
And so when that $1,000 dropped into my hand, I
You're welcome, by the way. Yeah.
couldn't release it.
Sorry. Yeah. It wasn't me. I was just kidding. Sorry.
I know the secret. Don't tell me no.
I'm just kidding. All right.
Wouldn't it just be to live your life day to day? And
Yeah. Trust that what's going
trust,
on. Yeah. Not that God might not necessarily be the cause of what you're going through, but when difficult times come, God is disciplining you not because necessarily you did something bad. It could be because of that, but He's growing you for eternity. He's molding you into the image of Jesus Christ. And if He wasn't, that would say He doesn't love you. And so sometimes my kids got to be angry at me because, there's discipline. We're going to get, what are you doing, God? But there's a beauty there, though, in that when we're going through that, we can know that God is loving us and that, He delights in us, and He's ultimately doing that for our own good. That's nice. Tough to hear, but it is a good one to hang on to when you are going through difficult times.
This the old adage, God doesn't put you through anything you can't handle.
Yeah. I would. Yeah, he puts it through you, and sometimes he'll bring you to nothing, so that you'll know that He's everything. And that's
This is a good thing for us.
You got room for one more?
Yes, we do. Yeah.
That also helps you to realize and remember the fact that you had done wrong and to stay away from that in the future.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Especially when it comes to one-to-ones. Yeah.
I think sometimes too when you're going through.
I hope there's some left. I'm sorry. There might not be.
It leads you back to God.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It leads you back to God's path.
That's annoying because that's usually the case. Yeah. No, I agree. Especially in my younger years, it was, oh, hi, God. I'm having a bad day, a bad month. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Next part, verses 21 through 35, chapter 3. So the fourth appeal encourages us, the one who finds wisdom, to guard it, knowing the Lord sustains and secures the path of the righteous. At the center of this appeal is a series of commands prohibiting actions that violate love of neighbor and incur God's displeasure. So as we're reading it, we'll talk about the following questions afterwards. So verses 21 through 35. All right. My son, do not lose sight of these. Keep sound discretion and wisdom, and they will be life for your soul and an adornment for your neck. Then you will walk in your ways securely, and your foot will not stumble. If you lie down, you will not be afraid. When you lie down, your sleep will be sweet. Sometimes that doesn't work for the righteous, but we'll do. Do not be afraid of sudden terror or of the ruin of the wicked when it comes. For the Lord will be your confidence and will keep your foot from being caught. Do not withhold good from whom or to those to whom it is due when it is in your power to do it. Do not say to your neighbor, go and come again. Tomorrow I will give it. Then you will have it with you. Do not plan evil against your neighbor who dwells trustingly beside you. Do not contend with a man for no reason when he has done you no harm. Do not envy a man of violence, and do not choose any of his ways. For the devious person is an abomination to the Lord, but the upright are in His confidence. Like friendship. The Lord's curse is on the house of the wicked, but He blesses the dwelling of the righteous. Towards the scorner He is scornful, but to the humble He gives favor. The wise will inherit honor, but fools get disgrace. What are some ways? So he says right in the beginning, do not lose sight of sound wisdom and discretion. What are some ways that we lose sight of sound wisdom and discretion in our lives? What are some ways that kind of lead us maybe?
Chasing money.
Social media.
Social media? No. Yeah. I think, for me, sometimes it's apathy, yeah. We meet the sluggard. We're gonna meet the sluggard later.
Too nice, and then you end up like,
Yeah. Yeah, and just kind of whatever, and I forget. Yeah. Yeah, you'll be able to teach us the way of not the sluggard. Yeah, the sluggard's someone that pastor struggles with. What was I saying? Yeah, apathy, kind of like. There's a big religious name. It's actually the proper name. Like the 7 deadly sins, sloth. The actual proper name for that is acedia, which means just losing sight of the holy. And so you're just kind of like, whatever. All right. Okay. That's kind of something I struggle with from time to time when it comes to losing sight of wisdom and discretion. All right. And so, how are ways that we can protect ourselves from tendency to lose sight of wisdom and discretion?
You keep God in the forefront always. And I, as a teenager, would go to church on Wednesdays and on Sundays and
Hear His word and read His word.
Yeah. Then I realized in dating, I could not stay up at 1 o'clock and get up to go to church, so I dropped back till midnight, and I got up and walked to church 2.5 blocks.
Yeah. That's what you do. I mean, it's keeping the word forefront in your life. Keeping people talking to you, whether it be in church or just keeping that company that can help you. It's not that you don't hang out with people, but it's just yeah. Okay.
It's your friend's wife.
Yeah, but all right. So verses 27 through 28. Actually, we're going to skip that question. We can. Do not hold good from those to whom it is due when it is your power to do it. This is talking about more of the, if people are under your, if you're employing people in your fields, make sure you pay them. So we're running a little short on time. What is an example of? Don't look at the next part. What might be an example of contending against a man for no reason?
Like jealousy.
Oh, I like that. That didn't even cross my head, but that's totally right.
Jealousy or even a competitive nature within your own self.
I like what you guys are bringing, because that wasn't where I was. I was thinking of times, so to be honest, have you ever contended against your spouse for no reason? I was thinking, like, a lot of times, that's really what it is. I'll imagine I'll get angry at somebody for no reason, and usually it's Kendra. It's like, wait a second, what am I even angry at you about? I'm sure we'd never do that in marriage, but yeah. Have you ever caught yourself envying a man of violence? So he says, do not envy a man of violence and do not choose his ways. So violence is not just, it's disregarding others and that sort of thing, and really, tramping on people. Maybe not necessarily violent blood-wise, but just in general. Have you ever caught yourself envying a man of violence?
I think I ever have, but I don't know a good scenario to think about.
Yeah, it's a deep question. We don't have to think that way. I mean,
Yeah, I consider myself a person of violence at times.
and I envy you sometimes. So
I had to protect myself all my life.
yeah,
So I do have to be very careful to realize they aren't coming at me the way I feel they are.
yeah,
So I have to contend myself until I realize,
yeah,
oh, they aren't. And it is hard because, from a young age, my grandparents didn't want me, and
yeah.
I had no one that cared about me, and I walked away from it all when I was 12 years old. And so I had to protect myself. So I am very cautious of who I make friends with, and I don't make them quick.
Yeah.
But I do have one that has lasted 62 years. The one that lasted 54 years passed away. So I have been close with my friends for a long time.
First time I tried to hug her, actually, she punched me in the face. It's very violent. Just be careful.
I don't think the word violence, I don't think that's what it means.
That part of it, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it portrays anything that goes against
God's law. Yeah.
law. So, yes.
I'd say it does,
envy.
it does damage. I think with violence, it also does damage to others, whether physically, mentally. So it's the person that tramps on others to get their own.
So I would say every one of
I
us.
had a session with my doctor.
Yeah.
When I fell and broke my arm, I displaced my ribs. And so he told me, put your arm up behind your head, which I did. And he said, now press. So I did with my whole body. He said, no, let's try it again. He said, press with your arm muscles only. I said, I win. So it is ingrained in my nature.
So really quick, verses 3:34. God, towards the scornful he is and toward the scorners he is scornful, but to the humble he gives favor. The wise will inherit honor, but fools get disgrace. So really quick, let me read these couple verses here from the rest of the Bible. God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Likewise, you who are younger, be subject to elders. Clothe yourself, all of you, with humility toward one another. For God opposes the proud and gives grace to the humble. Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, so that at the proper time he may exalt you. For the Lord is high, he regards the lowly, but the haughty he receives, or he knows from afar. Towards the scornful, I can't get that word out here. Towards the scorners he is scornful, but to the humble gives favor. So what do these passages teach us about the folly of pride? Really, ultimately, in choosing pride, you're choosing to oppose God. You're sitting yourself in the backside of God to some degree. And so and I think a lot of times when we talk about the Lord's discipline even, and that's really to chip away those parts where we are prideful. Because that's, again, enemy number one. That's enemy number one in Proverbs, is just that pride of, I can do this on my own. But rather it's, well, I love that. I'm sorry, I'm going back here. I'm jumping a little bit. That back to Proverbs 6, Proverbs 5, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. I'll teach you that song. It was a song we used to teach the kids in my old church. It's trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. That really sticks in your head. I'll do that today in the liturgy. We'll teach everybody. All right, watch the Ireland game. That was good. All right. Well, you might hit people too, and it might have shoulder issues like me. All right. In the fifth appeal for wisdom that we're going to look at, we're given a beautiful picture of a father passing down wisdom to his child. And in its words, we discover that the child is receiving wisdom from the past 2 generations, even from his grandmother. So we might not talk much about this, but let's read it. Hear, O sons, a father's instruction, and be attentive that you may gain insight. For I give you good precepts. Do not forsake my teaching. When I was a son with my father, tender, the only one in the sight of my mother, your grandmother, he taught me and said to me, let your heart hold fast my words. Keep my commandments and live. Get wisdom and get insight. Do not forget and do not turn away from the words of my mouth. Do not forsake her, and she will keep you. That's wisdom. Love her, and she will guard you. The beginning of wisdom is this. Get wisdom. Whatever you get insight. Prize her highly, and she will exalt you. She will honor you if you embrace her. One more. She will place on your head a graceful garland. She will bestow on you a beautiful crown. So I guess... in what ways have you received God-centered wisdom from your family?
You guys still church at a young age?
Yeah.
Sunday school?
Yeah. I mean, think about some of the things, just even bringing your kids to church, as we talked about this a little bit last week, and it's not all just church, but that's a big part of it, They watch you sing. They watch you honor something bigger than you. They're watching you when you go to communion, even though they're not receiving it yet. They see a reverence on your face and receiving that, and they go, there's something bigger than me going on here. And my parents have that, and I want to have that. And so there's a teaching being done there, even though you're not saying anything, just in your actions. It's huge for me too. It's just that the aspect of bringing me to church. It's amazing how much impact that had. You wouldn't think it as you're a kid. You're like, even as a teenager.
Don't you just think everybody learned wrong from right? Because
Yeah.
I think whether you're religious or not,
wrong
from right comes from
that's a general law. The law is written on our hearts.
That was the first thing that popped into my mind.
Well, my grandmother didn't drive, and when my mom died, I wasn't even 2 years old. And my early remembrance of her holding my hand, walking us to church on Sunday morning, and the church was at least 3/4 of a mile from our home.
That's cool.
And I have the certificate of attendance to that church in my possession now, and I believe that was a very prominent action on her part of saving me, because I was only 6 years old when I accepted God. And it was the day my dad walked out on me. And I walked myself to church. And coming out of church across the field, which was a wide open field, and I heard God's voice calling me. And I stamped my foot out and I said, well, you've always been my Heavenly Father. But I said, no, I have no earthly father. You have to be him. And he has. He's walked with me all my life. And I never knew how to discern the difference between him being my earthly father and my Heavenly Father until one day it dawned on me. Brenda and I were going up to about a 1.5 mile drive, or an 1.5 hour drive from our home. And we got thirsty on the way and we stopped, and I decided I was going to have a Coke. Well, I was diabetic, so I went in there and it was all Coke. And I thought, there's no Coke Zero, and that I don't like the diet, I like the Coke Zero, and I couldn't find it, so I thought, well, I like Coke really cold. So I reached in the back to get cold, because a lot of times the employees only put the warm ones in the front, so I reached in the back.
That's good trick to know.
Not
Wisdom.
a Coke Zero in sight, except the one in my hand. And so he said, you are not drinking that, you are diabetic, so you are having Coke Zero.
The Lord disciplines those who he loves, yes.
Right, he has protected me all my life.
Listen to these verses. This is one of these cool things about how important in Israel passing the faith down the different generations was. Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God is one. We all know these words. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. And these words that I command you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk to them when you sit down in your house, when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise. Similarly, the Psalms say, as things that we have not heard that our fathers have told us, we will not hide them from our children, but tell them to the coming generation the glorious deeds of the Lord and his might, and the wonders that he has done. He established a testimony in Jacob and appointed a law in Israel, which he commanded our fathers to teach their children, that the next generation might know him, the children yet unborn, and arise and tell them to their children, so that they should set their hope in God and not forget the works of God, but keep his commandments, and that they should not be like their father, stubborn and rebellious generation, a generation whose heart was not steadfast, whose spirit was not faithful to God. So this concept of passing the faith down the next generation is not just parents and fathers, it's everybody. It's the body of Christ. So your assignment today, as we leave Proverbs, because it's obvious for parents, but how might you lead and help a child? What practical thing can you do this very service to help pass the faith down to the next generation? So whether that's, saying, hey, it's great to see you here to a kid, or, just something. Just think of a way that, with somebody in the next generation, what's one practical thing you can do for that person today? I think St. Paul's does a good job of that, because there's a lot of intergenerational things going on. But think about one practical thing you can do in service today to help somebody younger feel welcome. That's all.
Just acknowledge.
Yeah. No. Let me pray us out here. God, we thank you for all the Father's instructions to the Son's day, all the parental appeals and proverbs that we got today, God. Help us to walk in the way of wisdom, to heed her call. Help us to not lean our own understanding, but rather in our ways acknowledge you, so that our paths may be straight. And let us start that even this service, God, as we surrender and sit to receive your word, both in word and sacrament. Help us to humbly know that we need that really more than anything else this week, especially the Steelers game. And we just ask this all in Jesus' name. Amen.